on today's episode of the Real Foodology podcast.
I just think that, it's so important to feel great and also to transfer that to your kids and to transfer it to your grandkids. I mean, I think it's just a huge gift.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Foodology podcast. As always, I'm your host, Courtney Swan, and today's guest is Elissa Goodman. Now, if you live in LA, you probably know exactly who she is. You have probably seen her super-seated bars at Erewhon, which are fantastic, by the way, or you may be well-versed in her Elissa Goodman cleanse. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen this cleanse before because I post about it periodically. I like to get this cleanse just to really maximize the amount of vegetables that I'm getting and just feel really good in my body, because I talk about this often on my Instagram and not enough on my podcast. I'm not a fan of cleanses, like traditional in the sense that we think about depriving yourself, not eating enough food. The really classic one is like a juice cleanse where you just drink juices for days and you starve yourself. Now, this is not the type of cleanse that I'm talking about. And it's why I fell in love with Elissa Goodman's cleanse, is because you actually get real food with it. You get tonics in the morning. You have these PM tonics that you drink at night. You have these really amazing, delicious salads with the best salad dressing I've ever had, and a really delicious plant-forward soups. Now, I actually just bought one of these recently just to simply have for meals every day, because every single meal that you get in that cleanse is just loaded with vegetables, and the food actually tastes really good. So I did not mean to spend that much time talking about her cleanses, but as you guys can tell, I'm a huge fan. And more importantly, the reason why I brought Elissa Goodman on today is because not only is she doing really amazing work and she's helping so many people, she also has a really incredible story and journey with cancer. And I've been having more of these conversations on my podcast recently because I'm really starting to become online to the fact that a lot of people are getting cancer diagnoses and they're getting them younger and younger. And I don't tell you guys this to scare you, but knowledge is power, as we know. Education is power. And I'm really interested in talking to as many people as I can from different facets of life, whether they've gone through cancer themselves or if they treat cancer. I love talking to cancer doctors because I think that this is going to be a really important conversation for a lot of us moving forward. I mean, a lot of you probably already have been touched by cancer, whether it was you, someone in your family, one of your friends. And unfortunately, that's going to be more of our stories as time goes on. And so it's just incredibly important that we have these conversations so we can talk about preventative care and also how to get through it if you yourself is diagnosed or if somebody else that you know and you love has been diagnosed. So Elissa Goodman was diagnosed with cancer at, I believe it was 32 years old. And then her husband also went through it. So we really spend a lot of time talking about diet from a cancer perspective, what she recommends for people. She is an amazing holistic nutritionist with just a wealth of knowledge in the whole subject. And so I wanted to bring her on to talk about all this. So I'm not going to spend any more time on the intro. I'm just going to let you guys dive into the episode. I hope you love it as much as I enjoyed talking with Elissa. She's an amazing guest, and I really hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, if you could take a moment to rate and review the podcast, it not only means a lot to me, it really, really helps this show. And if you want to give a little bit of love on Instagram, just tag me at RealFoodology. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Do you want to hear the biggest discovery of our time for promoting healthy aging? Of course you do, because all of us are concerned about aging. There is a class of ingredients called senolytics that were discovered less than 10 years ago, and they are being called the biggest discovery of our time for promoting healthy aging and enhancing your physical prime. Now, when I'm talking about aging here, I'm not just talking about on a superficial level, wrinkles and saggy skin. I'm talking about energy, joint pain, your ability to show up for your life, cognitive function. I'm talking about the real effects of cellular aging on the body and what it does to our body as we age. Now, as we age, everyone accumulates something called senescent cells in their body. They cause symptoms of aging such as aches and discomfort, slow workout recoveries, sluggish mental and physical energy associated with that middle age feeling. They're also known as zombie cells. They're old and worn out and not serving a useful function for our health anymore, but they are taking up space and nutrients from our healthy cells. Much like pruning the yellowing and dead leaves off of a plant, Qualia senolytic removes those worn out senescent cells to allow for the rest of them to thrive in the body. And you just take these supplements 2 days a month. That's right, just 2 days a month. Qualia Senolytic is an amazing product that helps to remove these senescent cells. And if you want to hear more about the product and more about these senescent cells that affect aging, go back to the episode that I did with Dr. Greg Kelly of Neurohacker so you can dive more into the details of all of it. But the formula that I'm talking about, Qualia Senolytic, is non-GMO, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, and the ingredients are meant to complement one another, factoring in the combined effect of all the ingredients together. If for some reason you don't like the product, you're not feeling the effects of it, it also has a 100-day money-back guarantee. If you want to resist aging at the cellular level, try Qualia Senolytic. Go to neurohacker.com/RealFoodology for up to $100 off, and make sure to use code RealFoodology at checkout for an additional 15% off. That's Neurohacker, NeuroHacker.com/RealFoodology for an extra 15% off your purchase. Thanks to Neurohacker for sponsoring today's episode. If you're like me, you know the importance of eating healthy, but you don't always have the time or the willpower to cook with all the colors of the rainbow. And your body is an amazing organic machine. It turns food into energy, it heals wounds, supports your consciousness, and so much more. But it needs the right fuel and signals to function at its best. Some of those signals include adaptogens. These are compounds that balance hormones and help you deal with stress in a healthier way. If you're feeling tired, these compounds give you a boost of energy. If you're stressed, they help you return to a natural state of calm. They literally help you adapt to the stress of life. My favorite source of adaptogens is Organifi. They create these delicious superfood blends that mix easily with water. They make it so easy for me to get more adaptogens in my day, like ashwagandha, reishi, mushroom, rhodiola, and so much more. If you're looking for an easy way to support your amazing body, I highly recommend trying Organifi. To try Organifi today and save 20%, go to Organifi.com/RealFoodology and use code RealFoodology. Again, that's Organifi.com. It's ORGANIFI.com and use code RealFoodology. Elissa, thank you so much for coming on today.
I'm so excited to be here. And also, I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be with you, because I followed you on Instagram, but I think we've passed each other at events, but never really sat down and talked and like got to know each other. So this was such a beautiful invite. I have to say thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like it's been a long time coming. I've wanted to bring you on for a long time because, like you said, I always see you at events.
Yeah.
I'm such a huge fan of your cleanse. I literally tell all my friends about it all the time. Because I will tell you just a little backstory about me. When I got really into health when I was younger, I did a lot of like juice cleanses, and I just felt like I found myself on the path for a while where I was like really depriving myself a lot, where I would do these like 6-day juice cleanses and just be dying by the end of it.
Right.
And so for a while, I like really wrote them off. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. It doesn't feel healthy. I want to be able to eat food. So anytime my girlfriends talk about cleansing, I'm like, oh, you have to try Elissa Goodman's because you actually eat food.
Yes.
And they're delicious. Your food is so good.
I mean, it's just so crazy how I got into the cleansing world, you know, but it is really fun to feed people. Like, because we will talk about, you know, how food is medicine, and even more importantly, just nutrients. People aren't getting nutrients. So you get over 50 different vegetables in my cleanse in 5 days.
Wow.
And no one can really say that they eat that at home. So it's kind of wild. And I am a foodie. I don't like deprivation, starvation. And I just feel like if you eat the right food, your body knows how to metabolize. And like these cleansers are losing weight in 5 days with eating more food than they normally eat. So it's been really fun to teach them how to eat better and also not to starve themselves like that, like you were saying. A cleanse isn't about that.
Yes. Well, and actually, I was going to ask you about that, what your thoughts are on cleansing, because I feel like I think this is kind of like an FU to the diet, you know, like the whole like anti-diet culture rhetoric that's been going on online. And I agree with some of it and some of it I don't. And one of the criticisms I hear about cleansing is, oh, well, your body has liver and kidneys for a reason. You don't need to do a cleanse because your body's already doing it. I have thoughts that I think are similar to yours, but I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
I just think that, we are born toxic. We come out of the mother's womb toxic with quite a few toxins. And then we're exposed, and especially nowadays, we're exposed to way more toxins, heavy metals, pesticides, as you know, just like crap in our food. And then also like fillers and additives and supplements and food, right? So I just think that, we can't keep up. The liver and the kidneys can't keep up, and the gut cannot, and the colon can't keep up detoxing all of these toxins out of the body. So I think it's just crucial that we kind of really take notice of what we're ingesting and also what we're putting on our skin and what we're using as our home products and all of that. I think they all need to be somewhat clean. Maybe you don't have to be 100%, but I would say I adhere to 80.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I have the same mind as you. And I talk about this a lot on the podcast, actually, that I'm becoming increasingly concerned as we're seeing cancer rates rising. We're also just seeing autoimmune, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. We're seeing so much of this stuff rise right now. And then we're also hearing, how much we're being exposed to all this different stuff. Like you just said, the pesticides in our food, there's stuff in our tap water. There's so many things that we do have to worry about. Yeah. And I tell people do the best you can, but also doing things like eating really good whole real foods, but also doing things like taking supplements and maybe doing your cleanse to really support those detoxification pathways are going to help keep your body clear of all that stuff that we're exposed to all the time.
Exactly. As well as we, you do it too, infrared, sweating, just things that also can be really helpful with the detoxification process. Not just the food, but also hydration, the right water, getting really hydrated because we have a dehydrated society. We really are drinking all this beautiful bottled water, but we're not getting minerals in the water, so we're not absorbing it. So that can be a problem for really detoxing and also motility. Going to the bathroom. And I don't know if you know this, but it's kind of crazy when I tell people, but going to the bathroom once a day is considered constipated these days.
Wait, really?
Yes. I'm sorry. I know.
So we're supposed to constipated. Also, sorry.
We're supposed to go 2 and 3 times a day. We're supposed to actually eat food, have it go through the system, and go out. And we don't go to the bathroom. Some people, as you know, don't go to the bathroom for days.
I know.
And then they're just so happy when they go once. But we are supposed to go multiple times a day.
Well, I need to work on that.
I do too. Honestly, I'm not perfect. I know. But when you hydrate and you focus on your fiber, really, and you also sleep well because that's when the body really goes into the rest and digest mode. Yeah. And most of us don't sleep as well. And when we exercise, those are things that we can easily do, but we forget about, and maybe manage our stress a little better because when we're stressed, everything shuts down. Yeah. So we don't really digest our food. That's a problem. So it's not rocket science here.
I know. But it seems like people are increasingly having a harder time with that too. And I think with women, I know it's really connected to hormones too. Mm-hmm. We were actually talking about this earlier, MTFHR and estrogen, if your body's not getting estrogen out. And if women are not having consistent bowel movements, they're not getting all their estrogen out every day. Right. And that can be a really big concern with cancer, breast cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And cancer is on the rise.
I know.
It's not going to, it's not lowering. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Courtney, it's just I can't believe it. And also autoimmune's on the rise. And it's just so frustrating to not see things get better with all of the inroads that we've made and what we know, with food and supplements and just, a more healthy lifestyle. So...
Yeah, I know. It's really upsetting. I have days where I'm most of the time I'm really positive about all of this. Yeah. And my general outlook is I feel very positive about it for the most part. Yeah. But I have my days where I just get so frustrated because I look at the state of our society and we know that only about 8% of our population is metabolically healthy right now. Mm-hmm. And then we look at cancer rates rising. And I want to talk about that too because you have a history of that. Yeah. And we see just that our population is really unhealthy right now. And then we look at the state of our food system and a lot of it feels like it's almost not fixable, but I know that it is. It's so frustrating because the tiniest little things need to be fixed. Yeah. But they're really big ones, and a lot of them are intertwined with, government regulations and our food and medical system. So it does really feel daunting. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about it?
That is a whole other podcast, honestly. We could do a cancer podcast. We could do the, food system podcast and also the medical community because You know, the medical community really doesn't want us to be healthy. You know, there's so many like great peptides out there that are helping people, you know, like we said, you know, NAD or exosomes or just, you know, great modalities that are really on the rise. But the medical community is not really loving that because it could fix some things. I mean, you know, we could talk about Ozempic just for a second. I mean, I'm, you know, of course, not a fan of heavy doses of Ozempic. I don't mind clients doing like really small dosages if they need it. And because it's a peptide, you know, and so it can be really beneficial. It can be beneficial for cancer and obesity and metabolic health, right? So, you know, we've just taken to a whole nother level, but there are a lot of opportunities out there to use some of these things that are coming on the market that will get us healthy, but the medical community is just not loving that because there's big business in, you know, radiation, chemo, cancer, you know, drugs. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the system, whether we like it or not, is set up to where the more unhealthy you are, the more money they make off of you. It just is reality.
I know.
I watched a video of this doctor. He was a pediatrician. He was talking about this. And he said that the more unhealthy patients are in the medical community, the CEOs make more money off of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the drug companies.
I mean,
you know, I know.
I know. It's so frustrating. Right. So it's why it's on us. It's all on us. Nobody's coming to save us.
Right.
It's on us to arm ourselves with the right information, also to arm ourselves with the right food, take care of our sleep, take care of our health.
Yeah.
And so that's why I brought you on today, because you are so good at giving advice around this. So let's talk about
I'm a little obsessed.
I mean, but the thing is you really do walk the walk. Like I'm sitting here in front of you right now, and I wish everybody could see how much you're glowing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can tell. Like you really do take care of your health, and you can really tell it shows.
I never was healthy growing up as a kid in a nutshell. So I had a low white blood cell count when I was born. And those days, you know, being 64, they didn't know what to do about that. They just were like, get to bed earlier. That was it. No vitamin D, you know, not even get out in the sun kind of thing, or vitamin C or any of that was happening. Also, food was a little healthier, but we still were having Cokes and sugar and, you know, things that weren't so healthy. But so it kind of accumulated into years of stress and years of not eating well and not feeling well, and then getting diagnosed with cancer. So that was like a huge wake-up call at 32 years old, just like, holy crap, what I'm doing to my body mentally and physically is not working. So it was a very scary thing to go through, but also it was very like eye-opening, and it just really changed my life in that regard. I mean, I love the fact that I was able to have an early diagnosis of it and then also sort of regain control of my health. So I didn't do what the doctor said. They wanted me to do chemo, radiation. It was a stage 1. And I'll just tell you, one doctor who was amazing at St. John's in LA, he was a radiologist, and I had gone to him reluctantly because I had seen so many doctors. And he said to me, sat me down, and he goes, "Are you happy? Do you love your life?
Wow.
Are you happily married? Do you love your job? You know, what's going on in your world? Like, do you love yourself?" And I was like, oh my God, who asked those questions?
Especially that long ago. Because how long ago
30
was that
years. It was 32 years ago.
That's really wild.
He was crazy instrumental in me getting my emotional well-being under control and really diving into that. And then as we know now, you know, fast forward, that is really a very big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, okay, do you have any feeling as to what maybe caused it? Like, I know that's kind of a crazy question, but...
No, it's not. It's not. Because, I mean, we have intuition. So I wish I followed my intuition a little better in my early years, as we all wish we did, right? But I was so stressed. And I had 2 parents who were very type A and very successful. So I felt like as I was growing up, I couldn't keep up with them. And it was a little bit bizarre to have parents that were like, I think at least 20 years older than me, like basically running circles around me. And then I also had digestive issues, didn't feel good, you know, was tired all the time. And I'm like, how am I ever going to be successful? And I followed, watched them, and I wanted to be like them because I loved what they were doing in the world. And like, it was really a beautiful life that they had created for us. But I always felt behind the 8 ball. Emotionally, I'm like, I'm not good enough. I can't keep up. And then I would just, also with the diet, just a lot of sugar, a lot of caffeine. So I'd get my energy levels up. And then I grew up in Arizona, moved to New York, and was in the advertising business. And again, was just on a rat race. It was all about making money, being successful, climbing the corporate ladder. So I had no exhale. I had no, meditation practice. I had no feeling of what does Elissa want? It was just about following in their footsteps. So I feel like the stress just killed me. And when I was diagnosed, that is when it stopped. And then I was able to regroup. And also it was those days that we were eating the snack wells. And remember that? The fat-free.
I very much remember that. I very much remember
and the no sugar cookies. And we're just downing that crap.
I know.
Thinking it was okay. And also my husband at the time was on the Atkins diet. It was
I
just
remember that one too.
The combination of all that, I'm just like, holy crap, how did I make it through? And I was sick all the time. So I was taking antibiotics all the time. I had allergies, I had digestive issues. So I was taking stuff to help myself go to the bathroom that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So I was taking a lot of crappy stuff, eating crappy, and emotionally I was very unstable.
Oh, which I want to talk about the emotional piece in a second, but I do want to dive into the diet for a second. So I'm curious, at what point were you able to figure out that diet played such a huge role? Was this something immediately when you got diagnosed, you're like, oh, I got to change my diet? Or did it happen over time?
I did get lucky because my mom used to go to a place called Rancho La Puerta. Have you heard of that in Tecate, Mexico?
So.
I know. I can't believe it's a health ranch. It's still around. It's been around since the 60s. It was part of the Golden Door. You've probably heard of the Golden Door, in Escondido. They were owned by the same people, but she had asthma. So she would go twice a year with about 20 women. And when I was a teenager, I used to go with her. And all the food, it was plant-based, and all the food was grown on property. Plus you exercised, you were mandatory massage, mandatory in bed, 9 o'clock or whatever. It was crazy. And yoga, meditation, it was way ahead of its time. So I watched these women transform in 7 days. They were there for 7 days. And no phone either, because of course, there was no cell phones then. But they transformed in 7 days. And I think I sort of had that in my head, wow, you could get better with healthy food and really good food. So I did at the time. I just moved from New York to LA. So it was Mrs. Gooch's. So that was kind of cool because there wasn't anything like that in New York. And there was a juice place called, what was it? It was on Beverly, that juice place that's been around forever.
Is it still there now?
It's still there now. It's been around forever. And I walked there and juiced every day. Wow. I became plant-based, and then started going to see an acupuncturist, did yoga, I actually went to a naturopath. So did all the things that LA had to offer, which was beautiful because New York really was behind LA in that regard. So the food was really important. I think it really saved me when I became plant-based. I didn't stay there because I felt very weak on the plant. I didn't know how to get enough protein.
Yeah.
Enough substance with it, but it did help me through the process.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think about plant-based diets? I guess more specifically when you think about from a cancer perspective, because I'm curious. I was plant-based for 5 years. I was vegetarian, basically vegan because I didn't really do dairy or anything either. And I came out of that I was very sick. I had hormonal cystic acne everywhere. I had gained 20, 30 pounds, something like that. And I just was so fatigued all the time. I felt very weak.
Right.
And I started towards the end of it having dreams about meat. And so I started eating meat again because I was just my body is telling me I need this.
Right.
But I'm curious from a cancer perspective. Yeah.
So I know they tell you to go that in those days too, they said to go plant-based, and really meat was bad. I just think that nowadays I really do teach my cancer clients to be plant forward, but I probably teach everyone to be plant forward. And I am an animal protein eater. I'm an O blood type. And I think the same thing. I was very weak. And also I started eating meat and I perked right up like the first little piece of meat I had, But I feel like, in those days, it wasn't like hormone free. It wasn't clean either. So nowadays, since we have those options, I think that we need the protein. Yeah. It really is important to get those amino acids. Those like complete amino acids to like heal our gut, to rebuild muscle, and skeletal muscle is really important for actually being healthy and strong. So I'm not if someone can do it right, the vegan, vegetarian world, it's hard to do right and to get enough of what you need, I think.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's impossible, but I do think it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think, and also as you age, you need more amino acids. You need more muscle. You need, you need more protein. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't talk enough about this too, but most people are not getting their genes tested.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that have various, genetic SNPs or mutations that their body may not be able to assimilate certain vitamins from plant-based foods, and they have to get it from meat. And so there's some people walking around maybe on a plant-based diet like, why don't I feel good? And why do I feel lethargic all the time? Because their body's not actually getting the vitamins and minerals that it needs.
No. Yeah. And I feel like, nowadays I feel like when I talk to people, it's more about people, there's a big animal protein, push right now.
There's like a movement happening right now, which
right, I know.
About.
I know. So it's like, and I feel like people eat that. They just don't focus on the veggies, though. I feel like most clients, don't focus on, am I getting 8 to 10 cups of veggies is what I like to see. And that's why I love your green juice, or I'm a green juicer and I have been for 30 years. I mean, I get like 4 to 5 cups of greens in my juice. So that helps a lot. But I just feel like, there has to be some balance. And also, I think the fiber helps push the animal protein through your colon, your small intestine. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but it takes about 14 hours for cow dairy and animal protein to go through your small intestine.
Yeah.
And 90 minutes for plant-based. So
that's wild.
It's like so crazy. I mean, and we do eat a lot. We have protein sometimes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and sometimes that just gets kind of stuck in there and fermented and just doesn't go through, which is a problem. And if we're not eating enough fiber and not having enough vegetables, it can be an issue too.
Yeah,
if you're the opposite of eating too much animal protein. I just think they're too much of anything, as you probably believe as well. Too much coffee, too much soy, too much sugar, too much gluten, too much animal protein, I think, can be a problem.
I totally agree. And I think you're right. I think the pendulum is just swinging really far to one side right now because I feel like the plant-based movement really held strong in the health world for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I think everybody's really excited about meat coming back on their plates, I guess, and it's maybe swung a little too far the other direction.
Right.
I do think it's going to even out. I mean, I will tell you, I even had a realization recently because I just ordered one of your cleanses just because I'm really focusing on just trying to be, really be on my nutrition game right now and just really having nutrient dense foods. And so I ordered your cleanse just to have as like meals, and then I was like adding, protein and stuff to it as well. Yeah. And I had a realization halfway through it where I was like, wow, I don't know the last time I've eaten this many vegetables every single day.
Right. I know.
I was like mind blown.
I know. That's what I love, to be able to teach people that. I mean, it's hard for them to continue that. I try to get them to, get that in their system, and crave it. And I have now a lot of men that are doing the cleanse and adding animal protein. We're adding animal protein for them, actually.
Amazing.
Yeah, but it just,
cool.
and also is incredible. So it just is fun to be able to really get the nutrients into them at a cellular level, because it's so easy to digest this stuff, and metabolize it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could take supplements, we could take multis and all of that, greens powders, and those are great too, but food is really where it's at.
The food is what we really need to be getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that your olive oil might not be real? If you follow me on Instagram, you know that this is quite the topic of discussion right now on my Instagram. Unfortunately, A lot of olive oils are being cut with lower grade, cheaper oils like soybean and canola oil. Not to mention, a lot of these supermarket olive oils are just not fresh. They can sit on the shelf for many months growing stale. Now, I love a good olive oil, but by good, I mean fresh. Olive oil packs the most flavor and the healthiest nutrients when it's fresh. That's why I've really been loving getting my olive oil from Olive Oil Direct from small award-winning farms, thanks to a guy named TJ Robinson, also known as the Olive Oil Hunter. When I tried TJ's farm fresh oils, I fell in love with their vibrant, grassy flavors. I actually texted my podcast producer and I said, they taste really peppery, like real olive oil. Like I could tell that it was real olive oil. They're incredibly delicious on salad, veggies, pasta, meat, fish, you name it. Now, as an introduction to his fresh pressed olive oil club, TJ is willing to send you a full-size $39 bottle of one of the world's most artisanal olive oils, fresh from the new harvest, for just $1 to help him cover shipping. And there's no commitment to buying anything now or ever. So get your free $39 bottle for just $1 in shipping and taste the difference that real olive oil makes. All you have to do is go to getfresh324.com. That's getfresh324.com for a free bottle of olive oil and pay just $1 shipping. Getfresh324.com. I'm always looking for ways to improve my mitochondria because our mitochondria are our life force. They are the battery of the cell, after all. My boyfriend loves to frequently remind me that that's the only fact that he remembers from biology. But mitochondria actually are so imperative to our overall health. When our mitochondria start to decline, everything else goes with it. That's when we really start to see signs of aging. So it's so incredibly important to support our mitochondria in any way that we possibly can, which is why I take Timeline Nutrition MitoPure to support my mitochondria. It contains an ingredient called urolithin A, and that alone significantly increases muscle strength and endurance with no other change in lifestyle, according to the clinical studies. Timeline Nutrition has loads of studies. They are a global leader in urolithin A research, and their products are NSF certified for sport. If you want to go back and listen to the podcast episode I did with the founder, we go over in depth all about the research, and we talk about all the amazing benefits of MitoPure. For example, maintaining muscle health, which is incredibly important to longevity and enduring good health. It also has postbiotics, the active nutrients your body makes during digestion. They're an emerging driver of good health. And urolithin A is one of the first postbiotics shown to have major health benefits and has become available to all of us in Timeline MitoPure. It also upgrades your body's cellular power grid, giving your body the energy it needs to optimize. Also, this is purely anecdotal, but I do have a friend who works one-on-one with clients for nutrition, and she had 5 or 6 different women take Timeline MitoPure and improve their egg quality and egg numbers when they were doing egg retrievals. So when I went and froze my eggs, I wish that I had known about this because I would have taken this before I froze my eggs. Again, that's just purely anecdotal. There's no studies to back it up, but it is something interesting. They come in soft gels. They also come in their protein powder, or they have just the simple powder that you can buy. I get the ginger powder and I put it in my drinks every morning. Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Go to timelinenutrition.com/realfoodology and use code realfoodology to get 10% off your order. That's timelinenutrition.com/realfoodology. I recommend trying their starter pack with all 3 formats. I'm curious, with the diet and cancer, what did you learn? And do you think sugar feeds cancer?
You know, I do. I think that sugar feeds a lot of bad stuff, especially the metabolic crisis that we're having. People just don't realize how much sugar is in so many things and hidden, as you point out when you go to the store, which I love. Yeah, it's just like it's everywhere. And we're just eating pounds of sugar, you know. And I don't mind a little sugar. So, and I also love fruit because I think fruit is the fountain of youth. But the added sugar in the processed foods, or you know, the added sugar in like a lot of things that baked goods and things that we're eating I think is really raising our blood sugar, is doing a number on insulin. You know, it's doing a number on our liver.
Yeah.
So I think that it can feed cancer, but I don't think it's the only thing. I think there has to be a series of things that I feel. You know, we talked earlier about maybe heavy metals. I test all my clients' blood work now. I do full panel blood work. I got trained in functional medicine, and I can't tell you how much fun it is to see exactly what's going on in their body. Heavy metals are too high. Their blood sugar isn't pre-diabetic, but it's close. Insulin is too high. Just a lot of these things that vitamin D is seriously low, and it's just like sometimes, with hormones too, like we were talking a little bit. I mean, hormones aren't being detoxed. Estradiol is too high, or they're not balanced. And CRP, which is that systemic
inflammation marker.
Yes.
Yeah,
is high. Every one of my clients who tests high for that does end up with cancer.
Wow.
It's wild. Yeah. A couple of them, I'm pushing everybody that has a high CRP to go get further testing. So two of my ladies who had a 7 and an 8, and I think you're supposed to be below 1.0, but had breast cancer.
Wow.
I know. So,
and I wonder what that is. I mean, obviously we know inflammation. So CRP, for people that don't know, that essentially tells you how inflamed your body is. And doesn't it kind of means that it's maybe been inflamed for a little while too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, over time.
Yeah. And so when we know inflammation, if it's acute, it's actually really good for the body because then it creates, a healing process essentially. But if somebody is dealing with chronic inflammation, which a lot of people are now based on, their diets and everything else that we were kind of talking about earlier, if your body's in a constant state of inflammation, then it's essentially sending all of its resources to try to fix that while other things kind of go at bay. And I think that's maybe what's happening with the cancer piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guts, guts are unhealthy.
Yeah.
Really unhealthy. I mean, like people aren't realizing just, how little microbiome they have, how little hydrochloric acid or enzymes they have to even break down their food or to protect anything from getting into their intestines where it shouldn't be. And also there's just so many pathogens in there, viral, fungal, just bacteria. You go out of the country and go to Mexico and, come back with a bacteria infection and it just kind of lingers there forever. Or as we talked about, you get mono or you had chicken pox or strep throat or some things that were shingles that are Epstein-Barr related. I had all of those when I was younger, all. And I think that attributed to my cancer a bit.
Wow.
So basically, those things lay dormant. And then when inflammation starts to rise and stress and no sleep and, bad eating, then you're really kind of get into trouble.
Yeah, it's just starting to stack up on top of each other. Yeah. Well, I found out something recently that there's and you and I talked about this earlier before we started filming, that there's a connection with B-glucuronidase or beta-glucuronidase and breast cancer. And I got a GI map done a couple months ago. And for people listening that don't know what that is, essentially it's a stool test. And then they test for different bacteria, pathogens, everything that's happening in your gut.
Yeah.
And mine was a wreck. And I actually talked about it on my stories one day. And because I had 4 different pathogens and I had all these people respond and they were like, oh my God, if yours is a wreck, I'm scared to check mine because everybody's upholding me as this perfect
right.
Because
you look good. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But, it just goes to show that, there's so many different things that could be happening. I went to Mexico 2 times last year and I attribute it to probably that. And I got sick both times and then probably just never fully got it taken care of. But it's just a really good reminder for people listening to, if you're having any sort of gut issues, anything like that, have your doctor order a GI map test and just make sure that you're free of all that because it's not, I think people hear oh my God, you had staph in your gut. They just, they freak out and think it's the end of the world. It's more just something you need to know so you can take care of it and get rid of it,
Right. Were you having digestive issues?
That's the crazy thing is
you weren't.
No. I wasn't bloating. I wasn't I don't really know. It's crazy. I wasn't having any issues really.
So I wasn't either last fall. And I did go to Mexico and got sick as well. But I did a GI map with my naturopath and I came back with high levels of candida.
Oh,
and
wow.
I don't feel like I have any symptoms. That's what is kind of wild.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, I've never seen levels of candida like this. And I don't even eat sugar. I don't eat sugar. And I also am so, I take probiotics. I try to I know how to lower my pathogen loads. I really try to, digest my food. I do a lot of things as you do to really stay healthy, but I know it could have been there, she said, for a very long time.
Oh, wow.
I just we never really attacked it, and got rid of it. So I also had high levels of arsenic, which was wild.
Oh, wait, let's talk about arsenic, because that's another cancer connection.
Totally.
Where
she was very worried. So
where are they getting
I think it came from my water. It did come from my water. So I had a reverse osmosis machine in a little sink in the kitchen, and I was using that water for my coffee and tea every day. And we tested it, and it had high levels of arsenic. So my reverse osmosis wasn't really working, and had it replaced. And then I like started to double filtrate my water, and then it did go down. So I also did ultra binders. I love Quicksilver's ultra binder. So I did that for about 6 months as well. So
and you were able to bring it down? Okay. Yeah. Another interesting one, I did a video about this one time, and everybody was like, what? In rice. They find arsenic really high levels of rice.
Chicken.
Oh, in chicken too.
Chicken and rice are big ones. I know. Yeah. So I always tell people to buy Lundberg because they test their rice. Smart, I don't know if any other rice companies do, if you know, but
I don't know, but I did hear that about Lundberg.
Yeah.
I also, too, was told white rice is actually better because brown rice holds on to the arsenic more.
That's true.
And actually, just overall, white rice is, I think it tastes better, and it's actually like better for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Easier to digest.
Right. It's, easier to digest. True. But also mercury, too, with the fish.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And mercury fillings. If people have had fillings for years and they're starting to leak and they haven't really replaced them, that's been a problem. I see a lot of high mercury and high arsenic. That has been, and some lead. And then also now seeing mold and...
Yeah,
mold's crazy. I mean, it's like right now with all the rains that LA had and just all the apartments and houses that leaked. Oof. So it's been awful, really.
Man.
Like that is, and I'm a big Ozone girl, so I love Ozone for like mold and for antibodies and for a lot COVID, long COVID symptoms and things like that. And also, some gut stuff going on. So I had to do Ozone after I got COVID. And then about 10 rounds, and it just saved my life.
Really?
But it's hard to find a good Ozone place.
Are you trying to stay hydrated but still feeling tired no matter how much water you drink? It's time to rethink hydration. Introducing Element, the electrolyte drink mix designed to replenish what you lose when you sweat. Unlike plain water, Element provides essential sodium, potassium, and magnesium to prevent muscle cramps, headaches, and energy crashes. Developed by renowned biochemist Rob Wolf and Ketogains founder Louis Villaseñor, Element contains zero sugar or artificial additives. With refreshing flavors like citrus salt and raspberry salt, there's something for everyone. And for my sparkling water lovers, Element has created a sparkling water called Element Sparkling. I'm so excited about this product. With the same trusted electrolyte formulation you love, now in a refreshing 16-ounce can of sparkling water. Element Sparkling provides health-conscious consumers with a guilt-free option to support their wellness journey. With every sip, you're making a conscious choice against sugary and stimulant-filled beverages, empowering yourself towards a healthier lifestyle. Try Element Sparkling today and experience hydration with a sparkling twist. To get your free sample pack with any drink mix purchase, go to drinkelement.com/realfoodology. That's drinklmnt.com/realfoodology. And if you're an LMNT insider, you have first access to Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water. I have a good lady here in LA that I can share with you. I just don't want to blow her up on Instagram or on the podcast.
Right. Okay.
She's really amazing.
Okay.
Well, actually, and I have a guy in LA too that does EBU, which is like a step higher.
Yeah.
I actually watched somebody get it done recently. I'm so freaked out by needles and blood. I was like freaking out the whole time, but it was very cool to see the process because they put a needle in both arms.
Yeah.
And I was seeing the blood come out and go through the machine, and it was this really dark red, and then it was coming back in. It was bright red.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
I know. Well, when they do the ozone, too, I could see what's going out and in as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes out dark, you're right, and goes back in bright. And then they also use an ultraviolet light to clean up.
To clean it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been hearing that this is a really good thing to do for cancer too, because if you have any circulating tumors, it can kill them off.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I know. And it's not really out there as much as it should be.
I know.
I really do think it's like a lifesaver.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully more and more people are learning about it, thanks to the internet and having conversations like this. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So is there a specific diet for cancer that you put your patients on?
My cancer people, what I'd love to do is I definitely take them off of like inflammatory foods, the gluten, the dairy, the added sugars, the bad seed oils, omega-6s. I just try to clean up their diet as much as possible in that regard. And then I do always try to get them to be juicing at least once a day, either juicing in a juicer or like we were talking earlier about throwing greens into a blender just to get those nutrients and get them hydrated, with the minerals. I also do give them a mineral powder that they put in their water, just also to stay ultra hydrated, because also going through treatment is really dehydrating, and really does do a toll. I love foods that are just easy to digest. So we do a lot of juices or smoothies, and we do a lot of, I would say, soups and bone broth. I love bone broth.
Me too.
Like real bone broth. And I love soup because soup is nourishing and nurturing. And they definitely are eating animal protein and probably having some sweets, because you can't be 100%. Yeah. But just that in itself has been game changing. And also emotionally, just like trying to find out, like, do they feel like they can heal from cancer? Mm-hmm. Do they want to heal from cancer? Also, I ask all my clients, do you love yourself? Mm-hmm. And I would say 90% of them say no.
Wow.
I know. It's like, I love my kids. I love my husband. I love my friends, but I don't really love me. I'm like, oh my God, that is so huge.
That is one of the biggest parts, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I only started loving myself probably 4 or 5 years ago. I had to do plant medicine to get to that place. And then once I did, all my health stuff changed.
Really?
Like
in what
everything
way?
chilled out. Like I had celiac. I was dealing with the Hashimoto's. I had anxiety. I had insomnia. I'm trying to think of I feel like I had everything. I also had some ringing in my ears. And, I just feel like after I started really seeing what my subconscious was doing to myself in terms of how hard I was on myself and how scared I was of getting another illness. So my husband passed away from cancer at 45. So I had the cancer, then he died. And I'm like, oh my God, if the girls, I have 2 girls, if they're left with no parents, that was a huge fear factor that was living in my subconscious. So I had to really go in and dig deep to see what was stopping me from really, getting that exhale we were talking about earlier, really loving myself and really honoring me first. So I was taking care of everybody else, all my clients, all my family, and I wasn't really doing as well. And so as well as I wanted to, I really wanted to get to a place where I was really thriving so I could be a real spokesperson for people out there. And it took that to really get there.
Well, I'm so glad that you had that experience. I also have had a couple really amazing experiences with psilocybin, and I've talked a lot about them on the podcast, so I don't have to go into it. But that's really cool, and hopefully that will inspire some people to do it. And if there's anybody listening that's too scared to maybe start out there, I think there's another program that's really amazing for learning how to love yourself. Are you familiar with Lacy Phillips and her work?
Yeah.
To Be Magnetic?
Yeah.
I think what she does is really powerful. And I think the meditations that she puts people through are pretty similar to the journeys that you go on with psilocybin.
Absolutely.
Because she also really helps you dive in there and see what's happening in your subconscious. She also helps you see what happened in the past.
Yeah.
And you almost rewire those thoughts, and you come back to this place of just compassion and kindness and love for yourself. Because I think a lot of it is compassion and kindness for yourself.
Totally.
And I think maybe too that there's this piece of what you said, where a lot of your clients will say oh, I love my husband, I love my kids. Yeah. It's almost like people have this feeling of oh, it's conceited or something for me to love myself.
Self-absorbed, selfish.
Exactly. Which is so funny that's a thought.
That's how we were raised.
Yeah.
I know. Sad. I know, because you can do it. You're not going to be able, as we all say, you're not going to be able to take care of your family unless you feel the best you do. So I know when I started feeling the best, everything changed in my family, relationships, and just everybody could exhale, I think. They could see that, oh, she's going to be okay. She's got it together, and it was really beautiful. But Lacey's a dreamboat, like in what she does. And also breath work. I mean, I love Gwen Dittmar, who I don't know if you know who she is, but she does breath work, and breath work is another, it's like going on a journey sometimes when you do a breath work course or class or, in person. I find those like incredible. So we need all of that.
Yeah.
We do. Especially with what's going on in the world.
Oh, 100%. So people need more of there's just so much going on right now. It's like we need to check out of some of that, and come
just
back
add
to
more
our
love
humanity.
and add more, relaxation, and just add more faith that everything is going to turn out okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too that I'm glad you brought up the emotional side of things, and also you said something that reminded me when I was in school and I was getting my master's in nutrition. There was a class that we took that essentially the entire class was going over studies about people who are dealing with illnesses and their outlook on life. And time again, every single study kept showing that if people had a positive outlook and they really truly felt like they were going to survive this and make it through. And they felt good, they felt healthy in their brain, even if they weren't fully physically like there. Yeah. Their outcomes were so much better than the people that were just wallowing and thinking, I'm going to die, or like stressing out, living in fear, living in anxiety. It's crazy that we have studies in the science to back up this. To be true.
I mean, Radical Remission, that book by Kelly Turner.
I keep hearing about this book.
Radical Hope, Radical Remission, two of my favorite books. It's all about that. Stage 4 cancer, healing holistically without chemo and radiation because of the mindset. 7 out of our 10 modalities are mindset related and stress. So I know we have all this research. And it's really crazy. I mean, I feel like that was the story with my cancer and my husband's cancer, because I believed I was going to get past it, and it was a learning experience, and I needed to go through that. His dad died of cancer when he was 2, of melanoma. And when he went into the cancer mode, I think he just thought he was not going to make it. The fear that he lived with and what he ended up, doing with the medical community. He did 2 bone marrow transplants in a year and a half, which is really, really crazy. I mean, 1 is enough to do and really take you out, but 2 was crazy. And so he died of fungal pneumonia. So he didn't die from cancer, but from his immune system being compromised. But he was living in fear, and he didn't think he was going to make it. So I feel like mentally that was huge.
Yeah, I think it's a really big piece of it. Wow.
And I don't think cancer should scare us.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be scared of cancer. We have cancer cells in our body. We all do. Microscopic cancer cells, like all of the pathogen loads we have in our body and the toxins, so we actually walking around like that. So, I mean, it's not here, but the medical community scares us, but it's really not something to be afraid of, because we can do something about it, you know?
Yeah, there's so much that we know now, and everything that we just talked about in this entire episode, there's so much we can do with diet and lifestyle. And I mean, a lot of that is, that's all of it.
Yeah, right.
That's all of it.
I know. Right. And people always say to me like, well, I can't afford an Erewhon, or, can't afford a juice or a smoothie, or just a lot of these things. And it's a little bit dumbfounding to me, because, there are farmers markets all over the country, to be able to go to a farmer's market. There are stores where there are real vegetables, right?
Yeah.
There are also frozen vegetables that aren't expensive, which are nutrient dense, that are very easy to buy and cook. And, there are options out there for people to grab these, nutrients and to get more nutrient dense food. But I just think that, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy, and also they're just also not educated to the same degree. But it is very sad, because I think it is the things we talked about, like sleep or hydration, or, just getting out and walking and getting, exercise in, or meditating, or, they're all free.
Exactly.
They don't cost anything.
Exactly.
So,
and we all have to eat. We all have to spend money on our food. It's all about where you decide to choose, or where you choose to put your money. And look, I don't want to be insensitive to people that I know that food deserts exist. I know people are really strapped for cash. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is a lack of education too, because I watch these videos There's this one woman in particular that I'm thinking of that every day she builds out a lunch for her husband. And she's like, I'm a middle-class mom, make lunch for my husband today or whatever.
Right.
98% of what she throws in that bag is packaged processed food. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm adding up all of this. And, then everybody's fighting in the comments saying like, well, this is all they have the budget and, access for. And I'm like, I could make him an amazing, super like nutrient dense, like really delicious meal for like $10. And she just spent like $30 on all this processed packaged stuff.
Yeah, I know. Very true. Very touche.
Right. And it makes me so sad because like, especially when we look at, rates of cancer skyrocketing and everything else. And I'm just like, for some reason, it's backed by these multi-million-dollar advertising budgets from these big food corporations.
Right.
But people are getting this narrative that buying these packaged foods is cheaper.
Yeah.
And I don't know like how we're falling for it.
Right. I know. And also it has a longer shelf life. So that's a problem too.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's not good. We don't want a longer shelf life. But, people are like, stocking up and being able to have these foods on their shelf for a long period of time so they don't have to like go to the grocery store and worry about it. But it is doing a disservice. I mean, it's sad because, I know we both know how good you can feel, with your life and as you age. And I have a second book coming out called Pro-Aging Hacks. And so it's just about like, I want to age and feel great. I don't want to feel like, I got the hormone issues or I got the weight around the middle or, I can't sleep or I have no energy or all the aches and pains. Like that is not what I want for my life and for my future. I'm sure I have 20, 25 years to live. So I just want to live it in the best way possible. And these years as we age, we have so much wisdom, maybe we have a little more income when we could travel and we can do more things. But I just think that, it's so important to like feel great and also to transfer that to your kids and to transfer to your grandkids. I mean, I think it's just a huge gift.
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to say, you're a mom. You want to be around a long time for your kids and not only be around for them, but you want to have the energy to do things with them. And hopefully maybe if they have grandkids, you want to have the energy to be there for their grandkids.
Right.
I talk about this all the time. I'm so grateful that my parents are in good health because, we still ski together. We still go for hikes. Like, I'm so grateful that they still have the energy to do that and hang out with me in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Right. And also, I don't want to be I've already been scared out of the medical community because of my cancer and my husband's, and living in hospitals and living at doctor's offices is no fun at all. So, I feel like if I step foot in another hospital, unless it's for having a baby, not me, but my daughter, but, it's like that will, that's going to be too soon. So it's just not someplace that is conducive to healing or, just nurturing at all.
Yeah.
So it's just a scary place, and I don't want that for anyone.
No. We've also been lied to, just that if you are lower energy, start having these health issues when you're in your 60s and 70s, like, oh, that's just aging.
Yep. Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
There's little bits and pieces of that, but if you actually take care of your body, you can do really well and have energy into your 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
It's all about how you take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And really honoring you first, not in a selfish way, but in a, just substantive way. Like, it's really self-preservation, you would say.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm trying to think of what else. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you feel like is really important for people to hear?
I know we did cover a lot. We covered a lot.
I know. I love it. We went through all my questions. So
I know. I just, I think what we touched on a little bit is, like I was saying, that I do blood work on my clients. And that's been the funnest thing that I have done in a long time, because being able, it's very cost effective. I'm associated with Rupa up in San Francisco, and I can get a full blood panel, all the hormones, all the metabolic markers, also find out what's, systemic inflammatory markers, everything.
Yeah.
Heavy metals. everything for like $260. Like it's crazy inexpensive. And so I have had so much fun being able to like really dive in with the clients and like also with menopause. So that's a big one. So I have a lot of women that are going into menopause or in menopause, and we are testing their pregnenolone and DHEA, which are two hormones that come out of your adrenals. And basically they help support your endocrine system. They help support your thyroid, your adrenals, your estradiol, testosterone, and progesterone. So it's really beautiful. There's supplements for that. So there's a lot of also beautiful supplements out there on the market that we didn't talk about. But basically, like I have had so much fun putting women on some, unless there's an issue with any kind of breast cancer or any kind of estrogen-based, cancer in their family or if they've had it. But I put them on that to actually like have smooth sailing going into menopause because it actually helps boost their own hormones. And same with vitamin D. Vitamin D there's a vitamin D cell receptor in every cell in our body. So if your vitamin D isn't over 50, your cognitive function isn't going to be like firing at all cylinders. So, and also we really need to be 60 to 80. So there's a lot of markers that are happening with blood work that should be looked at in an optimal way instead of just in a standard way. So that to me has been life-changing for so many clients and lowering people's blood sugar. Like 5.4 is too high. It should be below 5.0. So it's really fun. That's been like, I'm glad I'm like ventured into that world as well as feeding people.
I know. I want to actually eventually do that too. I have my master's of science in nutrition and there was a certification that I was going to get done years ago and then I went a different route just because of my career. Yeah. But I want to eventually do that too. Blood work is one of my favorite things ever to look at. I look at all my friends send me their blood work just because I took a couple classes on it and I just nerd out on it so much because it can tell you so much.
It can.
It tells you everything.
Yeah. And the GI maps too. I think the GI maps are really important. Yeah. I love those too. Not enough doctors do those for clients. And doing a full thorough blood panel once a year is just like life-changing. And also a nutrient deficiency test. Yeah. Just seeing what nutrients you're deficient in because clients come to me and they're like, hey, you were talking about this supplement. And they have this whole bag of supplements that they've gotten off of Instagram and TikTok. Yeah. And I'm like, you don't need that. And that's that's not a very good one. And it doesn't also they don't have enough of what they need too. They're taking curcumin, but they're taking 500 milligrams or, they're taking omegas, but they're taking like low dosages of them. So it's really important to know that, certain dosages to actually even get a benefit or it's a waste kind of.
It's also a waste if they're just taking them off of like Instagram and TikTok and their body doesn't actually need it. Yeah. Which is interesting because I used to do the same thing where I would just like take all the supplements that I read about that I thought that I needed. Same. And then when I started doing blood work, my doctor was like, okay, you do not need all this, like just what you just said, and was like, you're actually really low on this. We need to put you on that. And now I feel like my supplements are really dialed in specifically based off of what is going on in my body. And that's why blood work is so important.
Yeah. And it's life-changing when you just do a few supplements, and see what you're deficient in. So,
yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you one more question, which is what I ask all my guests at the end. No. This is just a personal one, and I'm very excited to hear what your answer is. So what are your health non-negotiables? These are things that no matter what, no matter how crazy your day is, that you prioritize for yourself and for your health.
I would say sleep is crucial. So I wear an Oura ring, and sometimes I hate it, as you probably do too, because when the score isn't good, my next day is a total disaster. But, I try to achieve 90s, which I'm not saying everyone's going to be able to do that, but sleep is a non-negotiable. Also hydration. So I have this powder that I love. It does have a few fillers, which is not great, but Ultima Replenisher. And so I just dilute it in 32 ounces and I get like 96 to 100 ounces a day. So it is life-changing, like in that regard. So that's non-negotiable. I would probably say my green juice is, another one. Like I'm obsessed with like how it makes me feel, and I just think it's great for my skin. And I do have to meditate and every day just for a few minutes to get, there's so many non-negotiables, to get myself back in my body because I'm so type A. I'm an Aries and I easily can get out of body and be like floating on the top of the ceiling, you know? So it's like I have to really calm myself down and, that morning sun has become a big one too, but I don't always get that. But those other ones are really non-negotiables.
I love that. My boyfriend's an Aries, so I love Aries.
I do
Big
too.
fan over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. And actually that Ultima Replenisher, my mom drinks that. I always drink that when I go to her house in Telluride.
Yeah.
It's really good. I
do. I love it too.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, please let everyone listening know where they can find you, where they can find your book and everything.
Okay.
You want to plug?
So I am on Instagram and on Google as Elissa Goodman. And every week I do a newsletter talking about a health tip and a new recipe. And of course I have the cleanses here in LA. We have a new one coming out. There's 4 now. So a gut, a regular 3-day, and a whole digestive reset, which is mostly liquids with a little chia pudding. So it's a 3-day to really empty out everything. And I ship my granola, my bars across the country. And I would say my book is on Amazon. And so hopefully the next one will be out sooner than later. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Real Foodology podcast. If you liked the episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let me know. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. The theme song is called Heaven by the amazing singer Georgie. Georgie is spelled with a J. For more amazing podcasts produced by my team, go to resonantmediagroup.com. I love you guys so much. See you next week. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and doesn't constitute a provider-patient relationship. I am a nutritionist, but I am not your nutritionist. As always, talk to your doctor or your health team first.